This video was created by VinylicPuma of VinylicPumaGaming.
What's up, guys? So I'm probably a day late and $1 short on this topic, but on August 23rd, Bethesda did a stream on Twitch that revealed some more information on Nuka World, and like I've done with some of Fallout 4's previous DLC content, I figured I'd make a video discussing how to prepare for the Nuka World DLC, as well as discuss some of the things that I saw on the stream. So basically, this video will include some light spoilers. It's nothing too big. They didn't really show like an insane amount of stuff or anything. There's no major plot twists or anything like that, so don't worry about that. But if you are concerned about spoilers at all, you've been warned. But before we get into all of the specifics here, Nuka World is coming out on August 30th, 2016 for PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4, and you will need the latest Fallout 4 update, which I believe is patch 1.7. If you're on Steam, you've probably already downloaded it, but if you're on console, make sure you're on 1.7 before August 30th, so that way you can play the DLC. Now, generally, the DLCs have been releasing at midnight. However, like Vault-Tec Workshop, there is a possibility that Nuka World may release earlier depending on what region you're in. Alright, so let's get started here. Now, it appears that you can start the Nuka World DLC at any level. However, the developers from Bethesda on stream recommended that you be at least level 30. And from what I was able to tell from their gameplay on the stream, it appears that the enemies are a little more difficult and generally spawn as higher level variants than some of the previous DLCs that have come out so far. Now, if I do remember correctly, I think the developers from Bethesda also recommended that you should be level 30 if you decide to do the Far Harbor DLC, but I would also say if you've completed the Far Harbor DLC, you're probably going to be in good shape for the Nuka World DLC. Now on stream, the developers got killed a bunch, and they were playing with a level 51 character. However, I would say this was mostly because they weren't properly equipped, and they also might not have been using the proper weapon perks for their weapons as well. So in general, for armor, you're going to want either synth armor or marine armor if you don't use power armor at all. That way you can get some legendary variants if you get the synth armor, not necessarily the marine armor. But if you're using power armor, you're going to want to bring yourself some XO1. That's going to be the best armor available, and it's going to allow you to tank a lot of damage. And as far as weapons go, just make sure you're matching the proper perks with the weapons you're using. So big leagues with melee weapons, rifleman goes with semi-automatic rifles, commando for automatic weapons, and then gunslinger for pistol type weapons. And if you also use heavy weapons, make sure you've got the heavy gunner perk. Based on some of the gameplay that they showed on stream, I would recommend that you have the Adamantium Skeleton perk. You have the Lockpicking perk high enough to at least be able to pick Master Locks, so you're going to need to be at least level 18 for that. And I'd also recommend High Intelligence of 10 and a relatively high Hacking perk as well, as there were some terminals that they showed that will need to be hacked. I'd really say that if you have a high-level character with good equipment and the proper weapons, you're going to be fine through this DLC, especially some of the initial areas. The hardest enemy that they showed on stream was a legendary Mirelurk, and really as long as you have the tools to take one of those down pretty easy, I mean, you're gonna probably blast through this DLC. Now, to actually start the DLC, you'll get a prompt that recommends that you listen to Nuka-Cola Radio, and once you have, you can then start a quest called All Aboard. Based on what was shown on stream, it appears that you have to go to the Federal Ration Stockpile and then walk directly west, and you'll eventually get to a place called the Nuka World Transit Center, and it's just off the map in case you're curious. However, once you've gotten to the transit center, you take a monorail from there that ultimately gets you to Nuka World. Now, the closest settlement to the federal stockpile is Sunshine Tidings Co-op, so if you're playing survival mode difficulty, make sure you've acquired that settlement and you've cleared all of the ghouls out there. And really, this is going to be the safest area to travel from to get to the transit center. And it's also the closest settlement, therefore bed, save point. You get the idea. That said, the enemies at the federal stockpile aren't really high in levels, so you may not have very many, if any, problems trying to go through there on survival mode and kill the enemies there. So you're ultimately going to have to see, but I would recommend, if you want the safest option, make sure you've cleared out Sunshine Tidings Co-op and then travel from there to the Nuka World Transit Center. Now again, based on what was shown on stream, once you take the monorail to Nuka World, you'll get to an area that is similar to the parking garage maze that's very close to Fallon's department store and Milton General Hospital that's kind of towards the southern part of the map. It's just north of Gunner's Plaza. Now, in general, there are a lot of traps in the very first area of Nuka World. The area is riddled with various frag mines, as well as some turrets. Now, they did show off 2 new turret types that are new to the Nuka World DLC here. The first was a machine gun turret, which is essentially a minigun turret. They also showed a cool animatronic alien turret, and what this thing essentially is if you've played Mothership Zeta from Fallout 3, it's essentially one of the Zetan aliens with their blaster pistol. Now, they didn't show whether you can actually take the animatronic alien's weapon. It would be pretty cool if you can actually do that, though. Speaking of new turrets, Bethesda showed off some new enemies in this kind of like maze, like gauntlet-like area. They showed a new enemy that was similar to mole rats called rad rats. Now, in terms of appearance, they look like your average rat. They're just a little bit larger. They also showed new ant-type enemies along with their flying counterparts. Once you reach the end of that gauntlet area, you'll encounter some of the new raider factions as well. And from what I was able to tell, they showed 2 of these factions, one of which was called the Butchers, and then the other was called the Scavers. Now, Bethesda also showed a new area on stream called the Nuka-cade that is part of Nuka World. Now, from what I was able to understand, this area works by acquiring Nuka-cade tokens, and you can get these, I believe you could purchase them with pre-war money. Otherwise, you could just find them throughout the Nuka World DLC, and what these allow you to do is they allow you to play the various arcade games in the Nuka-cade. Now, depending on your score, you're awarded with a certain number of tickets, which I'm going to guess are used to acquire certain prizes, so maybe some new weapons and armor, or maybe some other trinkets that are pretty cool. Now, they also played some of the games on stream that are at the Nuka-cade. There was one that we saw in the trailer for Nuka World, and that is called Bandit Roundup. And what that does is it allows you to shoot targets and score points. There's also another one called the Red Menace that's similar to like Whack-A-Mole, if you're familiar with that. And you also have a game called Hoop Shot, which is like basketball, and another one called Atomic Rollers, which is sort of like bowling, except not. Now, both Hoop Shot and Atomic Rollers are physics-based games, and your experience may vary. Otherwise, they did show 3 new pieces of weapons and armor that didn't previously appear in the trailer. As far as weapons go, in order to play the Red Menace Whack-A-Mole type game, you will need a melee weapon called the COMMIE Whacker. Now, based on what I saw on stream and what I was able to tell, the COMMIE Whacker deals 10 damage, so it doesn't appear like it'll be useful for general combat. And to give you some idea, for the sake of comparison, the COMMIE Whacker is about on par with the flare gun in terms of damage. As far as armor goes, Bethesda showed a new piece of armor that seems to be a variant of light leather armor from the vanilla version of Fallout 4, so one of the first armors that you can acquire in the game. The only difference is the one from the Nuka World DLC appears to be a little bit bulkier, and on the belt, there appears to be these like high caliber bullets on it, which you don't see on the light leather armor you see from the vanilla game. The other piece of armor was just some apparel that was a Nuka World themed t-shirt, which mostly just looked like it was of cosmetic value, and it didn't boost stats or anything. Now, maybe once we get the DLC, we'll know for sure. But alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and quickly sum everything up in this video. Now, if you want to get prepared for this DLC, make sure you have access to Sunshine Tidings Co-op Settlement, especially if you're playing on survival mode difficulty, as this will be the closest settlement or save point as you approach the Nuka World Transit Center. Now, this should go without saying, but make sure you have really good armor and weapons along with the correct perks to use them, because it's going to make some of the beginning areas that they showed on stream a lot easier. As far as perks go, you may want the ability to pick master locks. You may want to be able to hack some master terminals, which you can use Nick Valentine for, and you may also want the adamantium skeleton perk along with some other endurance perks in case you get caught in some of those explosions and you get crippled. Now, it also goes without saying, make sure you bring some stim packs, and if you're on survival mode, make sure you have some refreshing beverages. Otherwise, make sure you're level 30, and I think you're going to be pretty good to go. Otherwise, I think that's going to pretty much wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like. Sorry guys, I got this up later than I wanted. I found out about it 12 hours after the stream, so it sucks, but it is what it is. But again, guys, take care, and I'll see y'all next time.